As part of a little shop update, I just want to show you, I went out and bought a pair of Weiss, two pairs of Weiss tin snips or sheet metal snips. I got the green ones are right hand colored straight or right hand cut. The red ones are straight or left hand cut. Let me just interject something here about these Weiss or these tin snips. The first thing is I've always called them Weiss, or we've always called them Weiss when I was in the trade. I'm not really sure how you would pronounce that. It's W-I-S-S. Is it Wiss, or we've always called it Weiss. I'm not saying that this brand is the only good brand on the market. We've always used them. We've always used them because they were good. We would be on a job and we'd see tin knockers, and usually that's what they would use is this brand of tin snips. We didn't use them in my profession is for cutting sheet metal as much as we did for cutting bands off of bundles of pipe, or in later years cutting metal studs and stuff like that was in our way. But we've always had good luck with them, and as you guys know, my tool obsession, the tool obsession in buying good brand tools or good performing tools is that you would be out on a job, and if you went to some, let's say, Horrible Freight — they didn't have Horrible Freight back then, but go to Horrible Freight and buy a set of tin snips, and the fucking things broke when you were after you drove 40 miles to get to a job, and there was no place around to get them, you would be out of luck. So we kind of, back when I got in the trade, we always had good tools, and usually good tools was the norm. I mean, back when Proto and S&K wrenches, and even Craftsman, back when Craftsman had good stuff that was made in America. We always bought it because we knew that we could rely on it, and that's the same way with this. I kind of hate it when somebody goes on YouTube because they've got a lot of followers and people are giving them shit, and their YouTube video turns into like an infomercial. That's not what this is about. I'm not saying that these are the only good tin snips. I'm saying that's what I've always used, and I've always had good luck with them. I've seen people buy cheap pairs of tin snips, and the jaws or the cutting shears separate, or the handles break, or whatever. So I just kind of wanted to interject that in there. I had a pair of yellow ones, which are straight cut around, but they had the straight handles. These two have offset handles on it. And when you're cutting sheet metal, it makes it a lot easier with the offset handles because it keeps your hand clear of the one edge of the metal as you're cutting it. As you're cutting down it, well, if you're cutting a thin piece, it tends to curl up. But that gives it a chance to curl up before your hand runs into it, being offset like that. What I also did was bought a pair of, a rivet gun. Now, I had a rivet gun, but I had gotten it in an auction, but I couldn't get the thing to work. There's a little pair of cone-shaped anvils. Let me take you over and I'll show it to you. And here is that rivet gun. It's an arrow. The inside of this thing is a little set of cone-shaped anvils, and what they do is they grip the shaft of this, and as you squeeze this thing, those anvils grip down on this, and pull it backwards, thus kind of crimping that out or pulling that out so it enlarges around the hole, and that's what creates a rivet to work. But the pair that I had, I couldn't get those ambles. I took it apart and tried to get those ambles to work, but I couldn't get them to work. They wouldn't fit in there, whether the inside of it was rusty or something had happened to it. The ambles were pinched together so much so that you couldn't get the pin past them. So I went out and bought a new rivet gun, and got some rivets. Now, this is an assortment of rivets here. The top are, I just bought this because I wanted to get it. The top are aluminum, the bottoms are steel, and then I got rivets for the project that I'm working on, which happens to be steel, and I didn't want to use aluminum rivets in steel. Aluminum rivets are kind of the most, the biggest seller in box stores, because everybody uses aluminum rivets for like ceiling grids and things like that. But so you have more of a tendency to find the aluminum rivets in a box store than you do the steel rivets. But I wanted the steel ones, so I had steel on steel and not aluminum on steel. But just a couple of things that I wanted to show you. I kind of showed this in, or going to be showing it in one of the updates on the truck, where I'm making that dog coop for the firewall, because the block sets back far enough that I had to cut out the little bit of the firewall and build a housing around it. And I kind of show it in there, but I just kind of wanted to do it as part of a shop update also. Just to show you, this is one of the old pairs of Weiss tin snips that I had. These are straight cutting, and here's where I'm talking about the shear part is straight with the handle, whereas these are offset. I had also had this pair around, and I had actually started cutting the sheet metal with this pair when I decided to go out and get a pair of two pairs of Weiss ones. I can't tell you how much easier it is to cut with these new tin snips than it is even with the good Weiss, but the old ones, they're getting dull, and it's like kind of a hot knife through butter with these new ones. And I'm not really sure. I think this is 18 gauge sheet metal that I'm fabricating that out of. But it's so much easier with the right tools and sharp tools. One of the things I wanted to mention, you might have seen it when I was talking about the pop rivet gun. I have these, I've got a couple of these trays, they're magnetic trays, and what I was doing was taking the cut off pieces of the pop rivet and throwing them into the magnetic tray, just so that I could keep them. These things always end up on the floor, and even though they don't have a head on them where if you drive over it, it could pop it up and puncture a tire, I'd rather keep them organized and keep them out of harm's way and off of the floor, so that I can throw them away properly instead of getting a flat tire out of them, or potentially getting a flat tire out of them. One of the things that I purchased and I really need, if you've seen any of my haul videos, that I had a tarp. I had bought those canvas tarps from Tractor Supply, and they shredded. They were canvas, kind of like an oil impregnated canvas to keep the water out, but what happened is they shredded. They were fabric, and oil impregnated fabric, canvas fabric, and they shredded. So just before I had my operation, I had bought this tarp. Now the only problem is I couldn't pick it up because I wasn't supposed to be picking up anything heavy. So I kind of got released and can pick up stuff up to 75 pounds, and this tarp does weigh 75 pounds. I forget the exact weight of it. I think it's either 75 or 80 pounds. What it is a 4-inch drop, or a 4-foot drop. It's, I believe, I kind of forgot now, 27 feet long, 4-foot drop. So it would be 8 in 8. It would be 16 foot wide, 27 feet long. But what I'm doing is it came packaged up in, actually maybe you kind of saw it sitting around on the floor. It came packaged up in this this carrying thing. What this thing is it had a couple of straps on it so that it was kind of folded up. I'm going to roll it up so that I can set it out and just unroll it on top of whatever I'm tarping. One of the other things that I just got was I bought a box of bungee cords off of I think it was not Cargo Supply, Truck and Tow. Off of their website they had free shipping, so I bought a box of bungees. They're 31 inches. I think I paid $42 for the box of 50 of them. They come with the hooks already installed and crimped over too. If you go to Tractor Supply and buy bungee cords over there, you have to, the hooks come separately and you have to put the hooks on. But anyways, what I'm doing is just refolding this thing. Again, it was folded up into a flat, I'm going to say it was probably 4 feet by 3 feet. And it was wrapped up in that, had a couple of carrying straps on it, but I'm going to roll it. So I'm just going to recenter it. Again, it was folded and they didn't have it centered, so I'm going to center it, fold it over on itself, and then roll it. But if anybody's interested, it's called a steel tarp. So there it is. They sell different. They sell steel tarps are the most common thing. They sell a lumber tarp, and it kind of looks like this, except it has a flap on one end. The flap is not. It doesn't come in a rectangular piece. Again, it's got a flap on the one end. It's got the drops, and then the flap is in the middle, so that you can fold that flap down like on the front of lumber, and then well, what you would do is you would fold the sides into the front of the lumber and then fold that flap down so that it kind of creates a watertight membrane in the front of the lumber. So they sell steel tarps, lumber tarps with a flap, and then they sell a machinery tarp that's the surface area in the center of it, instead of being rectangular, is more square, so that you can like put it over machinery, kind of machineries like mills and lathes and stuff like that. But anyways, here it is. I'll show it to you after I get it all rolled up. Okay, I'm back over here to the tarp. There's one thing that I wanted to explain to you that I forgot to mention before when I was showing this to you. Actually, there's two things. One of the things is I just measured this thing the way it's rolled up right now, and then measured my cabinet that I had installed underneath the trailer, and it will fit in there. There's not going to be much room for other things like those bungees and everything, but as I said before, as that tarp gets used and broken in and I'm able to roll it better, it will compact itself. So, but it will fit in there the way it is. But the first thing that I wanted to mention, there's a couple of things that I need to do, and to put a tarp on objects. Like I do haul a lot of racks, and they have sharp edges on them. So I want to help protect that tarp from getting ripped by sharp edges. And there's two things one thing that I've got, another thing that I'm going to get. And let me just shut you off, and I'll show you the first thing that I got. This box, there's edge protectors, and what it does is you can put these over the edges of the sharp edges of material, and it helps protect the tarp. Like that. So it goes over the edge. But the other thing that I want to get is like moving blankets, the blankets they use to wrap stuff up when you move it. Now, they're pretty expensive, so don't condemn me for this, but what I'm going to do is go to Horrible Freight and pick them up, because I can get them for like $5 a blanket, where I think if I bought them from like a supplier that supplies tarps or moving stuff, they're in the teens, upper teens, like maybe $18 a piece, and I can get them for $5 at Horrible Freight. And again, it's an expendable item. It's just a blanket to help protect the tarp from sharp edges and ripping on stuff that I'm hauling. But I'll bring you back. Okay, like I told you, I went to Horrible Freight and got 4 of these blankets. Now, they're 40 by 72, and here it is. Now, again, all it's going to be used for is kind of protection on the tarp, to drape these over rough edges or edges on equipment or material that's being hauled, just to protect the tarp. Again, 40 by 72, I paid $4.99 a piece, or I got 4 of them, total of $21 and some cents with tax. If I bought a comparable thing from like U.S. Cargo Control, now I didn't really look at their site very good or extensively. Their blankets are 72 by 80, basically the same material, and they're selling 4 of them for $72.99, or actually $73. So what is that? That's probably about $14 a piece or something. So smaller, but a lot cheaper, and again, it's expendable material. The only reason I went to Horrible Freight is because it was cheap and it's expendable. Just one other thing that I wanted to touch on too was, as you probably heard in the video when I was talking about the tarp that I was able to lift. So I went back to the doctor and convinced her, I convinced her that, that I was well enough that I would be able to lift up something. So I don't have to go back to her. That's another story. I kind of regret not having to go back to her. She's really attractive and a sharp dresser. But anyways, don't have to go back to her. she allowed me to lift up to 75 pounds. So, and I can progress from there as I feel fit. She kind of understands that, you know, I had been lifting up some stuff I hadn't lifted up, and she gave me a limit of 15 pounds, and I had probably been lifting like 30, 40, 45 pounds up. But she gave me that limit of 75 pounds and told me just to kind of work into it gradually, but not to overtax myself, or if I started to feel any pain, to let up. And so I'm good to go, don't have to go back to her. But one of the things is that I'd really like to thank all the viewers that you know, wrote in or made comments about it and wished me well and a speedy recovery. And it really meant a lot that you guys thought enough about me to you know, make a comment or transfer wishes. But thanks. But that I'm a lot better and getting better every day. But thanks. I'm over here at the toolbox, and I know that I told you that I was going to do a toolbox tour or a shop update about the toolbox, but I still haven't gotten all that I'm looking for the new toolbox in yet, so I really don't want to do an extensive tour of it until I get that stuff all together and get this thing organized. I still really don't have it organized until I get that other side cabinet to kind of figure out where I'm going to go, or where things are going to go in it. I mean, I do have it a little bit organized, but I will just show you like a wrench drawer. But there's things that are going to be moved around and changed once I get that other thing. But why I'm over here is I wanted to show you, when I originally showed you this toolbox in a shop update, it did not have the stainless steel top. Now, the stainless steel top was part of it, but it didn't have it yet. I didn't have it when the toolbox came in, and I subsequently got it and put that on there. So I just kind of wanted to show that to you. And then in kind of wrapping up the shop update, I just wanted to mention one thing. I really haven't talked about trips, haul trips that I've been making lately. I have one planned. Originally it was planned for this month, which is November. I had one planned for this month, and it got postponed because of conflicting interests. There's a lot of things that are going on in this trip, and it's going to be a long trip. It's actually literally from the southeastern part of the United States to the northwestern part of the United States. So, but there's a lot going on, the coordination-wise, of picking something up in Indiana, taking it down to Florida, delivering it to Florida, picking up something in Alabama, and taking it up to Washington. But so there was a lot of people, a lot of coordination involved in getting materials, and a lot of dates of when people would be available to either pick up or drop off materials. So I'll keep you posted on that and other things as it progresses.